I just bought this old gaming PC for only $100 from a customer as part of a deal, and although the system's about 9 years old, I believe with just some minor fixes and a couple essential upgrades, we can turn this into a fully capable 1080p gaming PC that we can flip. The deal that allowed me to get this system for so cheap actually ties back to our last flip video, where we ended up picking up a system for only $800. And that system, after testing it out and making sure everything was running great on it, we were able to go ahead and list that system for $1,200. And after just a couple days, a customer came in looking for a new PC, and we ended up settling on a deal selling that system for $1,100 plus getting this system, which we ended up counting as a $100 trade-in credit. So we have this system here. Let's go ahead and run over the specs. This system has a Core i5 4670K and a GTX 770, 8GB of RAM, and a 250GB SSD and a 1TB hard drive. So this was a pretty decent system at the time that this was built, but there are some essential upgrades as well as a couple minor fixes I think need to be done before we can go ahead and list this and try to go ahead and make a profit on it. When it comes to the fixes that we're going to be doing for this system, the first thing I want to do is actually flip over the power supply so it's sucking fresh air in from the bottom of the system. Then from there, I want to go ahead and move the GPU up to the first PCIe slot, and then lastly, we'll go ahead and repaste the CPU, as that's probably never been done. When it comes to the upgrading side of things, my plan is to go ahead and replace this GTX 770 with this GTX 1660 Super that I picked up on eBay for only $80. And because it was such a cheap upgrade, I ended up picking up a 16GB kit of memory over on Amazon for only $16. So in total, once we upgrade everything in this system, we'll be in this system for less than $200, giving us a nice room for a profit. To get started making these repairs and upgrades, the first thing I wanted to do was take care of the power supply, which after just unscrewing the 4 rear screws, we can carefully rotate the power supply over. And after that, the next thing we can go ahead and do is pull out the GTX 770 and adjust the PCIe slot covers to go ahead and install our GTX 1660 Super into slot 1. With that now complete, we can now pop out the old system memory and get the system swapped out with the brand new kit. Lastly, we need to go ahead and just remove the AIO block, clean off the old thermal paste using some isopropyl alcohol, and then we can go ahead and reapply some Arctic MX6 thermal paste. After mounting the cooler back onto the CPU, this rig is now good to go, and we can go ahead and test it out to see what kind of performance increase we were able to get with these upgrades. Looking at the 3 games that we ended up testing, we were definitely limited beforehand. As something like Fortnite on medium, we were only getting around 32 frames per second compared to now sitting in the high 80s. Call of Duty was also a pretty interesting case, as beforehand we were actually unable to even run the game due to a lack of driver support for the GTX 770. But after the upgrade, we were able to go ahead and make the game completely playable at 67.9 frames per second on the balanced preset. Valorant was also an interesting case, as the system was able to run it pretty well beforehand because it was a fairly CPU dependent title and really isn't affected all that much by your GPU. So beforehand we were getting about 168 frames per second, and after the upgrade we got a slight bump up to 182 frames per second. So as you guys can see, this system is now fully capable of running games at 1080p well over 60 frames per second. And I believe that we should be able to go ahead and list this system for about $350, which after a $200 investment for buying the system as well as getting the additional parts, we should be able to go ahead and make a nice $150 profit. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe for more content like this, and if you guys have any questions, make sure you leave those down below. And if you haven't already, go ahead and check out Project Whiteout, our most recent PC build, which was one of my favorites I've ever done in the mid-range. So, we'll see you guys in the next video.